You're about to watch a Trains Newswire video. If you enjoy what you see, consider watching some of our other full-length videos. Hotspots, Horseshoe Curve, Tehachapi, Chicago Racetrack, and more. Locomotive, the video companion to our best-selling special issue. And a special collection from documentary producer Rich Luckin. All these and more are available from our website, kalmbachhobbystore.com. Good morning, Trains Nation. Today is Friday, January 4th, 2019. Happy New Year! We are so glad you could join us for another episode of Trains Newswire in 2019. I'm Steve Sweeney.
And I'm Jim Wrinn, and it is 2019. If you have not figured that out yet, we are here to tell you all about it.
That's right.
And we've got this really short, compressed news week because we went and goofed off on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, which is good. And then we came back, and news started, and there were some interesting things that happened, and it actually started on New Year's Day at a place far, far away from the railroad tracks.
Yes. Tell me about that.
Pasadena, California.
Oh, that one.
That one.
That one. Did you hear about this one?
Did you see this one?
Okay, so if you were watching the Tournament of Roses parade, it happens every year. It's been happening for about 100 years now.
Over 100 years.
Union Pacific teamed up with the, if I wrote this down correctly, the Chinese American Heritage Foundation to create a beautiful float depicting, you know, the joining of the two railroads.
The Champagne Shot.
Champagne Shot at Promontory, Utah.
Jupiter in 119.
May 10th, 1869, and they did it all in flowers. It was so pretty. It was very beautiful. Cool. There were people on the float, people waving.
Full flight.
Until it caught fire.
Yep.
Yeah. So on Newswire, we've got a quick story about this float. We've asked Union Pacific for comment. They did not respond. I understand, guys. I understand. And video that was posted to YouTube of someone who was in the crowd, video, recording most of the parade, and got this float on fire on camera. Watch it on Newswire. Oh my gosh!
I kept wondering. They had smoke generators on these things, and I just wondered if, whenever I first heard that, I was watching the parade. I don't know if you watched it or not.
I did not.
I watched the parade, and they said it was on fire, and I was like, it's probably not on fire. And then there was also some issues with turning. There's a really sharp turn, and apparently this is a really long float.
Right.
And there were all sorts of issues. They did finally get it out. Pulled it out by a tow truck, but anyway, yeah, it was quite the thing. It got more attention that way, I will say that.
This is true. This is true.
But anyway, not for what they hoped it would be, but still got some really cool attention there.
Well, and this is why they went to articulated locomotives.
Yes, that's for sure. Yes.
Okay, so on the other side of the world, or almost completely on the other side of the world, people are mourning the loss of 6 or 8 passengers on a Danish passenger train. It was crossing a bridge over a strait between the Baltic Sea and the North Sea when cases of beer flew off of a passing freight train, struck the train, and killed people on the passenger train. I'm not sure how the physics work on this, but it happened. Read the story on Newswire.
Or just how, we don't know how the load was secured.
Correct.
That's another thing. I saw a picture in Wall Street Journal yesterday. And, it was quite an impact. And I know they said there was very high winds at the time. Right. And so it's definitely a tragedy, but very odd. I mean, like...
This is the oddest thing I've ever seen.
Probably one of the oddest wrecks or derailment, not derailment, but obviously one of the oddest situations where there was a fatality on trains that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, just odd. I mean, period. We've been covering crime and news between us for a long time. We got ink in our veins from newspaper days.
Very strange.
And there are a lot of strange things, weird things that you'll never report on. But this is the strangest accident and death I've ever seen.
Very bizarre.
So,
very bizarre.
Going from bizarre to the sublime, Washington D.C., the Surface Transportation Board has 2 new board members. Patrick Fuchs and Martin Oberman. We know Martin Oberman in the rail community because he used to be the chairman at Metra in Chicago, and he stepped down as chairman a year or 2 ago, and now he's been nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. So amidst a government shutdown,
they got something done.
They got something done for railroads. This is good.
How'd that happen?
This is good. Late breaking news. Just before we came in here, there's word that there are 2 derailments in Canada right now that are of some significance. One is in British Columbia, and the Canadian Pacific freight train, mixed train, derailed in a spiral tunnel. which will be interesting to
That's
see
not
how
fun
they
to
clean
clean
up. Yeah, that's going to be fun. And also, sketchy reports about a Canadian national derailment that is affecting Via Rail's Canadian. We're going to be following up on that later today. Jim, I've been hogging the time. What do you got
You've
so
been
far?
hogging the time. Hush up, Steve. Let me get in here. So down south, back in my part of the world,
All right.
Norfolk Southern, updating and altering its intermodal schedules to try to really focus on the heavy-duty lanes. And they announced this week they're going to drop some service for either trailers or intermodals in some different lanes.
Right.
Be sure and check that one out. Really interesting one I thought was they're no longer going to do trailers between Chicago and Austell, Georgia, which is
Right.
effectively Atlanta.
Yeah.
But you know, trailers are messy. They take a lot of time. You can't double stack them. So
They fly off and hit passenger trains.
yeah, they could possibly do that.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I said, some NS intermodal news there in the newswire this week. Also, AAR car loadings for the year were up again.
Yes.
13 of the commodity categories were up, so that was good. Coal, once again, sort of soft, even though it had its bright spots. And crude oil, way up. Although
For the year, 18%.
18%. Yeah.
And each week we've been seeing, each week since I'd say like March or April, we've been seeing double-digit increases. The last week of December, they
oil's
went
coming
up
back.
40-some%.
Yeah, crude oil is coming back.
We've
And-
got we got a story on that in the March issue from Bill Stevens.
And that surprises me, you know, because here's the price of oil so
Yeah.
low, but now these guys are pumping all this crude oil.
Well, you know, and a lot of it is coming from Canada right now. And this is the story that you'll read in the March issue. And a lot of crude oil's coming out of Canada, but they just have nowhere to send it.
Right.
So it's got to go. It's going to
They
get
have to
out
do
at all.
something with it.
You got to put it on a tank car and send it out by train.
Got to do something with it there. I got two other things.
Okay.
One is a look-ahead story at next week. Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis 576 comes out of the park in Nashville, and we're going to live stream on Facebook a lot of that move on the 13th. So get up early on Sunday morning on the 13th and check that out. But the efforts to remove that engine from its park home of 55 years start on Monday. So we've got a story about previewing that. And also
Awesome.
the folks at Cass Scenic Railroad are going to open up some new track and also inaugurate a new engine that has never been seen at this tourist railroad in its almost 60-year history.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's an
So
awesome place.
go check those out. Those will be posted here shortly.
The last thing I want to talk about today are the top 10 stories of 2018. I don't want to go through them all, but I'm going to list some of them. It was cool. You can read it all on Newswire. We had the Giants of Rail Photography, who passed on in 2018. We had station restorations come up in 2018. We're talking about Cincinnati, Chicago, Buffalo, et cetera, et cetera. Indiana Transportation Museum woes, fires, flood, and weather, runaway freight trains, President George H.W. Bush's funeral train, positive train control, bright line, precision scheduled railroading, and the one I want to talk about, Richard Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the story that seems to just keep rolling and rolling and rolling, the management situation at Amtrak. And you know, if there's any story that really affects all of railroading, it's how passenger trains run on freight railroads, and it's how you know, they're operated and funded and cared for, and we know it's near and dear to a lot of your hearts. So be sure to check out all of those stories on Newswire. They're available right now for you. They're open. So go check that out. For everyone at Trains Magazine, we hope you have a great weekend.